the finale. And this is the part that everybody talks about, and everybody remembers from O2, and everybody hates it. You see, remember how Adventure ended with kind of a bittersweet ending? You know, that ending that, probably brought some kids to tears because they say goodbye to their Digimon partners, and, it's sad because they'll never see each other again. At least as far as we knew from how Adventure ended, not counting O2. So, O2 wants to end on a bit more of an upbeat note after Oikawa's death. So, it ends with TK in the future narrating to us what happened to every single Digidestin. Let's listen to a couple of these.
Tai and Agumon are diplomats dealing with relations between the real and digital worlds.
Wow, cool! Wait a minute! The fuck?
Sora and Biomon are fashion designers.
The fuck?
Yoli and Ken are married with children, and Ken and Stingmon are detectives.
Seriously, you guys? The fuck?
Mimi's cooking show is the only time she takes off her hat.
Dude, the fuck?
Well, Davis finally opened his noodle cart, and believe it or not, it became a huge success. There are now noodle, come get your noodle carts all over the world.
I mean, really? The fuck, dude? The fuck?
Matt and Gabumon became an astronaut team and made it all the way to Mars, even though they were only supposed to go to the moon.
The fuck?
Cody's a defense attorney. He's bought 100 briefcases because Armadillomon keeps sitting on them.
Good for you, son. If there's one thing America needs, it's more lawyers.
This is just pathetic. And most of these just seem either random or don't really work for the characters. Because for most of the kids, they didn't set up like a future career for them. They're just kids. The only two that had like a semblance of a career path were Izzy and Joe. Because Izzy obviously would do something with computers and Joe wanted to be a doctor. And guess what? We're told that Izzy got a career doing something with computers and Joe got a career being a doctor. And at the last second of this show, they gave Davis a career path saying that he wanted to like push a noodle cart for a living. And then they turned that into he is now rich and famous worldwide for pushing a noodle cart. That's where his little backstory gets really, like, out of place and stupid. If it was just Davis pushes a noodle cart in Tokyo and has a kid and he's really happy, that would have, been a backstory that would have been really realistic and less stupid. But because O2's trying to make, like, the ultimate happy ending for all these characters, they have to make them all really rich and famous. Somehow. And stuff like Sora being a fashion designer. I don't remember Sora ever giving a real interest in designing clothes or anything like that. That would seem more geared towards Mimi. But for some reason, Mimi now has all of a sudden a passion for cooking. Even though that was never like foreshadowed in the show at all. I never remember her cooking anything. In fact, what I do remember her doing was singing. But no, cooking is all of a sudden her passion because the show said so, and also because apparently there were events in her life that made her fall in love with cooking that we didn't see because this just jumps ahead 10 or 20 years. This is stupid. Okay, and then Tai becomes an ambassador at the UN for the digital world. That's just... How can the digital world even join the United Nations when it doesn't even have a structure of a government? It is literally just wild, untamed wilderness. How do you have an ambassador to or from that? And this doesn't fit Tai's rebellious kind of nature to have him like a bureaucrat. Ken and Yoli getting married. I'll talk about that a little later, but Yoli was like now a stay-at-home mom, even though she was like one of the most energetic and independent women in the group. And Ken's out as a detective because it was the coolest profession they could think of to give him. Kari becoming a teacher, I guess, is fine for her character. Although I personally pictured her doing something with photography because it was shown that that's like a hobby of hers. But teacher's fine, whatever. Did I forget to mention TK's an author? I think he's an author. I forgot. Then you got Cody being a defense attorney. I know that there was a thing to make Cody more sympathetic to villains, like that was his arc during this whole show, but him becoming a defense attorney I think is a major stretch. Especially seeing how his dad, who was, you know, a cop, was, well, kind of murdered. I just can't picture him making like a decision to make his career trying to keep possible criminals and possible cop killers out of jail. I kind of pictured him more like, well, being a cop, following his dad's footprints. You know, so he could try to protect people from criminals, and not being a prosecutor where he's actively trying to lock people up, but, you know, cops are just there to try to protect citizens. Which is something I think Cody would kind of want to do more than, you know, try to keep people out of jail. This doesn't seem like a logical step in his life. I'll put it that way. And then we've got Matt, who became an astronaut, and apparently was so good. He was supposed to only go to the moon, but because he's just so awesome, you know, he was able to fly to Mars. Because, you know, the Mars and the moon are so close that you can just fly to one to the other. And, you know, who cares if you went to Mars with the amount of fuel it would take to go to the moon? You probably wouldn't have enough fuel to get back. You'd probably just be stranded on Mars for the rest of your life. Good going, asshole. But the thing that people seem to take away from Matt's little backstory or epilogue is the fact that he married Sora. Did I forget to mention that those two were going out? Yeah, I think I didn't mention that because it's not really important to the story. It's just kind of a background thing that's going on with some of the old heroes. You know, there was just some, like, it was mentioned that they were going out, and it was mentioned that Ty has feelings for Sora, and we know that he does because they made a point in the movie to say that he does. But something fell apart between them, and now Sora's dating Matt. And instead of letting that little love triangle be left to the fans' own imagination, this season goes above and beyond that and spells out exactly what happens. Sora marries Matt, they have some kids, Ty marries somebody else, and he has some kids. The end. And that's the problem I think a lot of people have with this, like, ending, is it's so final and doesn't leave anything up to the imagination. I mean, most seasons will have, like, an ending and it'll have a little epilogue, but it never goes as far as to say, this is what happens, these characters get married, this is the career that they have, boom, done. Because a lot of fans interpret different characters in different ways. And it is fun to kind of play around and think about, okay, what do I think this character will do in the future? And who do I think this character will marry? And that's a whole shipping thing. And I'm sure that if you, like, showed a bunch of different people these two seasons, Adventure in 02, and left out this ending and asked them, like, okay, what do you think these characters will do for a profession? And do you think this character will marry this character? You would probably get a lot of different answers. Like, for example, a lot of people would probably say Kari and TK would get together. But this season says, no, stupid. They don't get together. They marry completely different people. The end. And I think it takes a lot of the fun out of the fandom. I mean, you can still play around with these characters and come up with, like, different shipping ideas or stuff like that, but you're still going against, like, the will and intention of the writer. And this ending is just so unnecessary. I can't get over just how out of the way they had to go to make this ending. I mean, they could have just fast-forwarded, like, a year or two and see how the world has changed after 02, with Digimon being, like, a more open and accepted world on Earth. And, you know, we'd see, like, how the characters are and what they're doing. You know, like, a year later, you know, they'd probably all still be in school. But we'd get a little, like, epilogue about them, but without setting up their whole life for us and allowing us to kind of think about it. And after kind of giving some thought about what this ending kind of feels like, to me it feels like the show just saying, we no longer want to expand or explore this universe. It's over. We've gone as far as we can with these characters. The world is just done. When we make a new season, it will not take place in this universe. It will take place in a completely different universe. That's the kind of message I think this ending is sending. It's just a message that says, we are done here, move on. Speaking of moving